John's got his finger on the pulse of everything going on in Major League Baseball. John, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good. Johnny. You were asking us, are people upset about how the teams have been playing so far up here in New York? And, the easy answer is yeah, kind of. But, Gleyber Torres with another error last night, this one more costly for the Yankees, and shortstop is just not looking like it's all that comfortable for him to start the 2021 season. What are some of the Yankees' options here? Do you think that if things got really bad, would they try to make an in-season trade for a Trevor Story and really do a big, big move like that?
Well, you can never rule out a trade with the Yankees, but for now, he's their option. They're not going to move to LeMahieu or Urshela. I mean, Urshela is fantastic at third. They're not moving him off of there. LeMahieu is limited time at shortstop. What has he played? 3-4 games there in his career?
4.
That's not happening. It's going to be Gleyber Torres. He's an offensive shortstop. They knew that going in. He should be solid. Obviously, he's made a couple missteps early, but, I think, he is what he is. He's going to be below average, slightly defensively, and he's going to be a very, very good hitter for a shortstop. As far as a trade, you never can rule that out with the Yankees. They do like Trevor Story. Who doesn't like Trevor Story? He'd be the one guy I guess could get traded in season. Baez, I think the Cubs are going to try to re-sign him at some point. They're also going to contend, I think, in that division. And Seager, obviously, the Dodgers are going to keep him. They're not trading him in midseason. So, yeah, I think and Correa, the Astros look like the best team so far in that division. So, Story would be the one guy to look at. That's a good call, Maggie.
John, when if I'm looking at Judge here. What about now? We've seen it before. Every injury, the cloak and dagger nature with Aaron Judge, and this general side soreness that he's dealing with. We know he hates the turf down there in Tampa. Body doesn't respond to that. But your reaction now to Judge having an issue health-wise this early in the season?
Yeah, we got to find out what general soreness means. I mean, you and I were talking off the air. We both have general soreness all the time. So it doesn't sound too bad. You play through general soreness. If it's only general soreness, he's going to play. The concern with Judge is it oblique? Is it the oblique? Because he's had the oblique in the past, and it's kept him out a long time. And you just hope that it's not the case for his sake and for the team's sake. I mean, he clearly has been an excellent player, but he is injury prone. Hopefully it's just, as they said, soreness, and that should not keep him out very long at all.
John, another player moving away for the Yankees just for a second, because you're talking about the side soreness. It was George Springer who started with the oblique for Toronto. This is a team that we expect is going to be contending here with the Yankees, or at least going to be pushing the Yankees. And now it's moved. This is migrated now, or a new injury now with the quad. What's the latest with Springer?
Yeah, it's very worrisome because I was with him in spring training, and they thought he might be ready for opening day. He really wasn't feeling much, and he thought he could play through it, and now it looks worse. It's a very unfortunate. Obviously, they signed him for $150 million, record for Toronto. One good thing for them is that they have a lot of outfield depth, which, they have Grichuk, obviously, as a backup for them. At full strength, and we know he's a Yankee killer and a pretty good hitter as it is, but certainly you don't want to sign a guy for $150 million and then not see him on the field. It's been a rough start to baseball, certainly between Springer and Tatis. I mean, Tatis is a really worrisome 22-year-old kid, and they got to be careful with that one, I think.
Speaking of injuries, how about Tatis? Yeah, you mentioned Tatis Jr. out in San Diego. Yeah. They're going to do the rest and rehab. AJ came out and said that Preller, their GM. What about Tatis Jr. and just how concerned are the Padres that, maybe rest and rehab isn't going to get that shoulder where it needs to be?
Oh, I think it's very concerning. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. They said no surgery for now. So to me, that's pretty clear that surgery's still on the table as a possibility for Tatis. You hate to see that, but they've got to be careful with him. I mean, he's 22 years old. He's got a 14-year career. This year isn't everything. I know there's a lot of excitement in San Diego around that team. I mean, he's their best player. They have a lot of great players, and they were hoping to beat the Dodgers, get in the playoffs, make a run, maybe win their first World Series. But you got to be careful with him. I think if he needs the surgery, I think you might have to do the surgery. I mean, if you go without the surgery, play through it, could have some long-term effects. I'm not a doctor, but I'm just talking to people, reading and trying to understand what's going on here. And I think they just need to be very careful with him. And careful may mean surgery, which would be the year. So, I mean, it's not being mentioned now, but I mean, it's certainly a possibility, and that's very unfortunate for the Padres.
John, are people around baseball looking at a lot of these early, injuries, and even Mookie Betts and Bellinger? I mean, they were out of the lineup on Wednesday. Are they blaming this on the shortened season last year and players now adjusting to this workload or the off season, or are no lines being crossed there? Or dots being connected?
I don't think that's fair. I mean, I'm old enough that I remember guys showing up in spring training in worse shape than the sports writers. Some of these guys were 30, 40 pounds overweight, come to spring training and work to get in shape. Now these guys stay in shape throughout the year. So I don't think that's it. I think if there's a concern, it's for the pitchers, which you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Maggie. They didn't throw a lot of innings last year. You got to build up your arm strength. And basically, I'm not sure if any pitchers threw 100 innings last year in that season, which was 37% long. So they have to be careful with the pitchers, which probably is a good part of the reason why DeGrom came out after 6 innings. Obviously didn't work out for the Mets, but, I'm always in favor of erring on the side of safety and health, especially when you're talking about an iconic player, a player that's pivotal to the team's success. I'm never against taking a guy out in an inning too early rather than leaving him in an inning too long. But I think the concern would be about the pitchers based on the absences last year, not the hitters. So I think we just got bad luck so far early in the season here.
John, where are we? We've seen issues, obviously, in Washington already with the Nationals. What about team vaccinations? I know the Mets had a meeting, Boone, the Yankees. What about vaccinations across Major League Baseball for players?
Yeah, my understanding is that 5 teams now have the 85% vaccination, which will allow them to lift some of the restrictions, which will make things a lot easier. I'm a little disappointed. We're seeing some players that are really pushing back on the vaccination. I mean, the vaccinations have been going on for 4 months at this point, and we've had, 100 million vaccinations. So we've seen no evidence of any adverse reactions to the vaccinations, and certainly the teams are educating the players. I know the Mets showed a video, and the Yankees quietly brought in a doctor, and they got it done. I mean, give the Yankees credit. They've got more than 85% vaccinated. Not everybody was vaccinated. There were still a few holdouts, but they're over 85%. So they're one of the 5 teams. I know the Cardinals are another team that got more than 85%, but to this point, we still have 25 teams that are still working on it. And, there are a lot of people around the country, so baseball's no different, where they really don't get it. I mean, the vaccination is really saving the whole country. And, you wish that they'd all understand it, and the vast majority do, which is great. And, I'm just going to say good for the Yankees to get it done. Hopefully the Mets get it done in fairly short order here.
Yeah, Aaron Boone said last night there was a doctor who came into the clubhouse after the game last night who was giving vaccinations to the players. I thought it was poignant on the Yes broadcast last night also that they had a doctor from Montefiore, who's obviously a big sponsor for the Yankee broadcast, but just the doctor came on and said, this is our only way out. This is it. Getting the vaccine is the only way out. And I thought that really resonated, and hopefully that message gets even further amplified. So the Mets have their home opener today, John, and Taijuan Walker is going to be on the mound. But I can already tell a little bit, because we talked to so many Mets fans on this station, the tide is turning a little on Rojas. I think there's a lot of Mets fans who are, were willing to give him a shot last year. It was a really odd season. The Mets obviously missed the playoffs, but I can already tell that there's a little angst between Mets fans now and some of the moves that Rojas is making. Do you know if he's, how certain is his seat here, Luis Rojas, as the manager of the Mets?
Yeah, I mean, he's a manager, so the seat's not that certain. I mean, unless you were Tony La Russa back in the Cardinal days, you can name the managers. They're few and far between whose seat is certain. I look at Joe Madden. They forced him out with the Cubs. It's a tough job. The honeymoon is clearly over. I'm going to giving him a chance. We'll see. It was, a guy who did a very good job in the minor leagues when they hired him. He was hired by the previous regime. I think Sandy Alderson is a patient guy. I don't think he's blaming him for anything that's happened so far. So far, the Mets have not been great. It's been only a couple games. Let's not go crazy. But the reason they haven't been great is the bullpen guys have not done it. Basically, the vast majority of them have struggled when he's called upon them. I don't blame him for that. And again, I don't blame him for taking DeGrom out after 6 innings. I'm sure there are people who say he could have gone 7. He probably could have. But like I said, I err on the side of caution. I know the history isn't good with DeGrom, with 31 blown saves of leads that he's given them. They've got a losing record at 36-41 in the games that he's pitched while he's been a Cy Young guy and the best pitcher in baseball. And it's unbelievable. I know that, and I understand the Mets fans' angst, but I'm not blaming Rojas for that, and I'm giving him a chance. But I'm with you guys. The honeymoon's over. I don't think there's any question about that.
Honeymoon's over to a point where, John, where you think he could be facing pressure during the course of the year? He's going to be given the year. I know Steve Cohen last week said he expects this team to be the playoffs. I mean, how much is the honeymoon over? Yeah, okay.
I think he'll get the year. I think Sandy's a patient guy, and I think he'll get the year. I mean, he's certainly Rojas has got a good enough reputation. He's certainly been very good in the clubhouse and good with the players, and I think Sandy appreciates that. And so I think it's likely he gets the year. I mean, obviously if things are disastrous at the All-Star break, I guess all bets are off, but I don't anticipate that happening. This is too good a team for that to happen. At least we think so. We've said that before with the Mets. I can remember 92. But I believe that this team is pretty good. And, that in a sense maybe put more pressure on him. But, I think he gets the year. But in terms of the fans, the honeymoon's over.
John, 3 players on the Mets that, we've heard that they've engaged, some more stronger than others, but Conforto, Syndergaard, and DeGrom, who's got that opt-out. Any movement there? Do you think those conversations continue during the course of the regular season? Yeah. Have they taken a little bit of a break here? Where are we with those 3 Met players and Cohen and Alderson?
Well, I'll put 2 words on this. Sign DeGrom. He's got the opt-out. But the next year, he's the best pitcher in baseball. Garrett Cole's awfully good, but DeGrom's the best. I don't think there's any argument there from anybody. It's inarguable. And, you got to keep him. That's it. I've been consistent on Conforto. Every time I'm asked, I'm saying I don't see it. They think he's a good player. He's got Scott Boras. Going to make a lot of money in free agency. Look at those outfielders in that realm, how they've done. If you look at it, not all the deals have worked. Jason Hayward, fairly comparable, $184 million. Jacoby Ellsbury, sorry to bring up the name, $157 million. Chu, $130 million. I guess you could go down and say, well, Gordon only got, about $72 million or something like that. But it's going to be well over $100 million that he's looking for. Probably well over $150 million that he's looking for. The Mets just aren't going to get there. I just don't see that. He will be a free agent, and I will remain consistent on that. They tried. It was a brief conversation. I don't think there was a counteroffer, so I'm not seeing that one. And then Thor, that's just a tough one to put the number on. Coming off of Tommy John, they've had a conversation, but it seems to be unlikely. If he comes back, looks good, maybe then they can talk. I know he was throwing 97 when we saw him in spring training. Signs are all positive, but is he worth $50 million as an injury risk? Is he worth $200 million as a potential, I can't say ace with the Mets, but potential ace type? Hard to know. So I don't see Syndergaard happening anytime soon. I don't see Conforto happening until he becomes a free agent, and even then, DeGrom is the guy. And DeGrom has shown an interest in staying. He took, he's in a tough position as kind of an older player, kind of I guess you would say late bloomer, who's become a superstar. I'm not saying he did anything wrong, but he took kind of a deal that favored the team that was long-term. He did get the opt-out, which was smart on his part, but, he's a guy who wants to be here clearly and is the best pitcher in the game. That's the guy to get done.
John, last one for me, and that is the extra inning rule. You and I, we talked about last week when Maggie was out sick, but there is tremendous pushback against the extra inning rule this year.
I don't get it. I love it.
John, it's here to stay. I mean, it's not going anywhere. The rationale, the reasoning, players, owners, why they like this extra inning rule.
Yeah, I mean, they like it because it saves them 18-inning games. We just had one in Boston with this rule that went, I think, 12 innings, something like that. That'll be a rarity. About 90% of them end in the 10th or the 11th inning, or over 90%. I like it. I mean, I've been around long enough. I've seen a lot of those outliers, the 18-inning game, the 20-plus inning game. I've seen them all, and they're great, fine, but they're real taxing on the pitching staff. I think teams don't want to see that. And this adds strategy. Before, we would see players go up trying to be the hero, hitting that home run, and we'd see zeros go on that board for endlessly, it seemed like. This way, you've got a guy on second. The strategy comes into play. Do you bunt? Do you hit it to the right side? Do you get him over? Once he's over, do you play for the one run? To me, it brings extra strategy into the game. I love it. It's exciting. I think maybe the pushback comes because didn't the Yankees lose a game? I think the first game, right? They lost the game when Grichuk hit the ball in right field. And
they lost last
night in 11.
Oh, okay. Well, you're better than me. You're keeping track. That's not good either. All right, so that's it. I think we solved the problem. They're not happy. They don't want to lose.
It's a Yankee bias. Yeah.
They think that they're going to do better if they get. We start with nobody on. It kind of favors the teams that have relievers that are really hard throwers because the strikeout is important there early with a guy on second. But I'll live with that. To me, I like the added strategy. We're going to lose strategy next year when we're going to go universal DH. I want to keep this strategy in at least.
John, we appreciate your time, your expertise, your opinions. We appreciate it all. Enjoy the rest of the day. We'll talk to you again soon, okay?
You too. Enjoy the game.